The shuttle descended through Kael'thar's crimson sky, carrying humanity's offering to a war that had raged for 3 centuries. Captain Marcus Webb stood at the viewport, watching 2 armadas bracket their trajectory, the sleek silver warships of the Valkyrie Empire on one side, the brutal angular vessels of the Thros Dominion on the other. Somewhere on the surface below, his bride-to-be waited. A princess he'd never met. A symbol to end the bloodshed. "They're using you," his second-in-command had said before departure. Marcus had smiled grimly. "They're trying to." The Valkyrie were elegant, their society built on honor and ancient codes. The Thros were pragmatic warriors who valued strength above all. Both empires had clashed over territorial disputes until their worlds bled. Then Earth's diplomatic corps had proposed the unthinkable, a human husband for the Valkyrie princess Lyraneth, blessed by both empires, to symbolize unity through an outsider's neutrality. Marcus wasn't neutral. He was a Marine Corps officer who'd survived the Centauri rebellion. But orders were orders, and if his marriage could save billions of lives, he'd walk down that aisle. The shuttle touched down in the neutral zone, a massive platform suspended above a chasm, bristling with security from both sides. Marcus emerged in dress uniform, his shoulders squared, his face carefully neutral. Representatives from both empires lined the platform. At its center, beneath an arch of woven light, stood Princess Lyraneth. She was breathtaking. Navy blue skin that seemed to shimmer like deep water, blonde hair that fell in elaborate braids adorned with jewels that caught the light. Her eyes, violet and ancient, fixed on him with an intensity that made his tactical mind suddenly quiet. She wore ceremonial armor, silver and elegant, and moved with a warrior's grace as she approached. Captain Webb, her voice was melodic, the translator rendering her words with crystal clarity. "You honor us with your presence, Princess Lyraneth." He bowed precisely. "The honor is humanity's." Her lips quirked slightly. "You're more diplomatic than your file suggested." "My file? I read everything about you. 3 commendations, 2 war crimes accusations you were cleared of, and a reputation for turning impossible situations into victories." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "They think you're a symbol. I think you're a weapon they don't understand yet." Before Marcus could respond, the sky erupted. Explosions blossomed across the platform's perimeter. Extremist fighters, Valkyrie and Thros flying together in unholy alliance, screamed down from the clouds, their weapons blazing. The guards scattered, return fire lighting up the artificial twilight. Marcus's training took over instantly. He grabbed Lyraneth, pulling her behind a pillar as plasma bolts shredded the ceremonial arch. Her guards were already moving, but they were ceremonial troops, unprepared for this level of coordination. "Stay down," Marcus shouted. Lyraneth's violet eyes flashed with something that wasn't fear. "I'm a warrior princess, Captain. I don't hide." She drew a blade from her armor, its edge humming with energy. Marcus pulled his sidearm, the one piece of actual equipment they'd allowed him to keep, and grinned despite the chaos. "Then let's introduce them to humanity's version of a wedding ceremony." The platform became a killbox. Extremist fighters from both empires had united in their hatred of peace, and they'd brought enough firepower to turn the ceremonial venue into a graveyard. Marcus processed the tactical situation in seconds, 30-plus hostiles, air and ground assault patterns, coordinated targeting of both empires' leadership. This wasn't just an attack. It was an assassination designed to reignite the war. Southeast corner. Marcus barked at Lyraneth, pointing to a service corridor. "That's our exit vector. I won't abandon my people." She deflected a plasma bolt with her energy blade, the weapon moving in her hands with practiced precision. "Your people need you alive, not martyred." Marcus fired 3 rounds, dropping an extremist who'd been lining up a shot at the Valkyrie ambassador. "Move now, argue later." A Thros warrior, one of the princess's honor guard, stumbled toward them, blue blood streaming from a shoulder wound. Lyraneth caught him, and Marcus covered their movement, his shots economical and precise. Every bullet from his sidearm dropped a target. Headshots. Center mass. Throat shots. 40 years of human military evolution compressed into 15 rounds. They reached the corridor entrance as a missile streaked toward them. Marcus grabbed Lyraneth and the wounded guard, throwing all three of them through the doorway as the explosion tore apart the platform behind them. Heat washed over his back, but they were inside, temporarily shielded. "You saved Corval," Lyraneth said, looking at her guard with concern before her violet eyes found Marcus. "You didn't have to." "Yeah, I did." Marcus ejected his empty magazine, slapping in his last one. "How many security teams are in this facility?" 4 squads. But they're scattered across different sectors. The extremists timed this perfectly. Her voice was steady despite the chaos. She was evaluating him now, her tactical mind working in parallel with his. "You're not just a symbolic husband, are you? Symbols don't survive firefights, princess." Marcus moved to the corridor junction, checking angles. "I need you to get to your command center. Can you lead? This is my palace station. I know every corridor." She helped Corval to his feet. "But you're coming with me. If you die, this piece dies. Then we better not die." They moved through the corridors in a tactical formation Marcus adapted on the fly. Lyraneth took point, she knew the terrain, while Marcus covered their rear and flanks. Corval, wounded but determined, provided supporting fire when extremists appeared. The princess fought like nothing Marcus had seen before, her movements a blend of dance and devastation. Her energy blade carved through armor, and her own sidearm fired bursts of directed plasma that dropped enemies with surgical precision. "You've seen combat," Marcus observed as they cleared another junction. "Since I was 16. This war has taken everything from both our peoples." Her voice carried old pain. "That's why I agreed to this marriage. Not for politics. For peace. Even to a human you'd never met. Especially to a human." She glanced back at him, blonde hair streaked with soot, navy blue skin reflecting emergency lighting. "Your people ended your own wars. Learn to unite. We need that lesson, even if it comes from an outsider." They reached the command center to find it under siege. Extremists had breached the outer doors, trading fire with the last defenders, a mixed unit of Valkyrie and Thros guards working together out of pure desperation. Marcus assessed the situation in a glance. "Princess, can you rally them?" "Yes. But there's too many enemies." Marcus smiled grimly. "Not for long. Corval, give me your plasma rifle." Marcus had 13 rounds left in his sidearm and a plasma rifle he'd never trained on. The extremists had numbers, position, and firepower. By any tactical assessment, he was outgunned. They'd forgotten that humans had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain with nothing but sharp sticks and spite. "Princess, when I give the signal, you rally every defender to push through that door. Don't hesitate, don't look back." Marcus checked the plasma rifle's charge, 60%. "Enough. Corval, can you walk?" "I can fight," the Thros warrior growled. "Good. You're with her." Marcus looked at Lyraneth, seeing the calculation in her violet eyes. She was measuring him, trying to understand what made humans different. "Trust me." "I don't know you well enough to trust you, Captain." "Then trust that I didn't survive 6 wars by being stupid." He moved toward a maintenance shaft that led above the corridor. 3 minutes. When you hear the chaos, move. Before she could argue, Marcus disappeared into the shaft, moving with the controlled aggression of a predator. The plasma rifle felt wrong in his hands, alien ergonomics, unfamiliar weight distribution, but a weapon was a weapon, and Marcus had learned to kill with worse. He emerged in the upper maintenance level overlooking the corridor where extremists had pinned down the command center's defenders. 18 hostiles. Mixed Valkyrie and Thros, their unity proof of how deep the hatred for peace ran. They'd positioned themselves well, using cover and crossfire patterns that would chew apart any frontal assault. Marcus had no intention of going through the front. He opened fire from above. The first plasma burst caught 3 extremists before they even knew death was coming. The second swept across their left flank, scattering their formation. Marcus moved as he fired, never staying in one position, using the maintenance level's shadows and support structures like a wraith. When the plasma rifle ran dry, he dropped it and pulled his sidearm, firing with the precision that had earned him 3 commendations. The extremists tried to adapt, tried to target this new threat, but Marcus had already moved. He dropped through a floor panel, landing behind their line, his blade, a combat knife that had seen action on 4 worlds, already cutting. Close quarters. Brutal. Personal. An extremist Valkyrie turned, her elegant features twisted with rage. Marcus deflected her energy blade with his knife, the ancient steel somehow holding against the alien weapon, and put 2 rounds through her armor's weak point at the hip joint. She went down screaming. A Thros warrior grabbed him from behind, his strength monstrous even by human standards. Marcus let himself go limp for a fraction of a second, then drove his elbow back into the alien's throat, feeling cartilage crack. As the Thros staggered, Marcus spun and fired, point blank. Through the chaos, he heard Lyranetha's voice raised in command. The defenders surged forward, energized by his assault from behind. The extremists found themselves caught between Marcus's one-man slaughter and a renewed defensive push. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. When the last extremist fell, silence crashed over the corridor like a physical force. Marcus stood among the bodies, blood, red, blue, and purple, staining his dress uniform. His hands didn't shake. They never did. Not anymore. Lyraneth approached slowly, her violet eyes wide with something between awe and wariness. You killed 18 extremists. Alone. 16, Marcus corrected, reloading his sidearm with his last magazine. Your people got 2. How? Training. Experience. He met her gaze steadily. Humans spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other efficiently. We got very, very good at it before we finally stopped. The command center doors opened, and both Empire's surviving commanders emerged. A Valkyrie admiral and a Thros general, their expressions mirror images of shock. Captain Webb, the admiral began, her voice tight with barely controlled emotion. You've saved not just the princess, but... The wedding, Marcus interrupted. When do we finish it? Stunned silence. Captain, the Thros general rumbled, surely after this attack. Especially after this attack. Marcus looked at Lyraneth. That's what they wanted, wasn't it? To prove peace was impossible. So we prove them wrong. Right now. Here, standing on their failure. Lyranetha's expression shifted, understanding dawning. A smile touched her lips, fierce and approving. In Valkyrie tradition, a marriage sealed in battle is the strongest bond possible. The Thros honor warriors who fight for their chosen, the general added slowly, realization spreading across his scarred face. Marcus extended his hand to Lyraneth. Princess, shall we give them that lesson in unity you mentioned? She took his hand, her navy blue skin warm against his, and her smile became radiant. Let's show them. They married in the command center, surrounded by the defenders who'd survived the assault. No ceremony, no elaborate rituals, just the words that mattered, spoken over the cooling bodies of those who tried to prevent this moment. A Valkyrie priestess and a Thros elder performed the rites together, their voices blending ancient prayers that hadn't been spoken in unity for 300 years. Marcus looked into Lyranetha's violet eyes as he spoke his vows. I don't know your customs or your world. But I know war, and I know that peace is worth fighting for. I vow to stand with you, to protect what we're building here, even if the whole galaxy tries to tear it apart. Lyranetha's blonde hair caught the emergency lighting, her navy blue skin seeming to glow. You've already proven yourself, Marcus Webb. You fought for people you'd never met, shed blood for a peace you didn't negotiate. I vow to be worthy of that sacrifice, to stand beside you as equal, not as symbol or treaty. When they sealed the vow with joined hands, human tradition, and a blade kiss, Valkyrie tradition, something shifted in the room. The defenders from both empires watched their princess and this human stranger, and saw not a political arrangement but warriors recognizing each other. The moment shattered when alarms screamed through the facility. Main attack force inbound, the Valkyrie admiral reported from her console. The assault on the platform was just a probe. They're bringing the real firepower now. 200 fighters, multiple capital ships, mixed extremist fleet from both empires. Impossible, the Thros general growled. That's a fleet-strength force. Where did they get those resources? From people who've been preparing for this for years, Marcus said quietly. They knew peace was coming eventually. They've been building toward this moment. He moved to the tactical display, his mind already processing vectors and positions. What defensive assets do we have? 4 frigates, the admiral replied. And maybe 20 fighters that survived the first wave. We're outnumbered 10-1. Then we even the odds. Marcus studied the display, seeing patterns, weaknesses. Princess, I need you to coordinate both empires' defenders. They'll respond to you in ways they won't respond to me. What are you going to do? Something humans learned during the Centauri rebellion. Marcus called up the facility's power grid. When you're outnumbered, you don't fight their battle. You make them fight yours. Over the next 20 minutes, Marcus transformed the palace station into a fortress. He repurposed ceremonial shields as strategic defensive screens, rerouted power from non-essential systems to weapons, and positioned the defending ships in a formation that maximized their limited firepower. More importantly, he identified something the palace designers had never intended as a weapon: the gravitational tethers that held the platform suspended above the chasm. Those tethers are maintaining our position, Lyraneth observed. If you overload them, the platform becomes unstable. Forces any attacking ships to adjust their approach vectors constantly or risk being caught in gravitational shear. Marcus highlighted the weak points in the extremist fleet's formation. They're flying like they're attacking a static target. We make this platform dance, they'll tear themselves apart trying to adjust. The Thros general barked what Marcus assumed was a laugh. You think like Thros. Like a warrior who makes the terrain his weapon. He thinks like a human, Lyraneth corrected, pride in her voice. Like someone who survived by being smarter than his enemies. The extremist fleet arrived in a storm of fire. Capital ships, ancient dreadnoughts that had fought in the early wars, launched fighter waves that blackened the crimson sky. Plasma bolts lit up the defensive screens while missiles streaked toward the platform. Marcus initiated the gravitational variant sequence. The platform lurched, its position shifting in 3 dimensions, and the carefully planned attack runs became chaos. Fighters collided, trying to adjust to a target that wouldn't stay still. The capital ships, massive and ungainly, found their firing solutions suddenly worthless. All defenders, concentrate fire on the lead dreadnought's starboard flank, Marcus commanded. Hit them where they're vulnerable while they're adjusting. The mixed fleet, Valkyrie and Thros fighting together, hammered the weak point. The dreadnought's shields collapsed under the concentrated assault, and secondary explosions rippled across its hull. But there were still too many. Fighters broke through the defensive screen, strafing the platform itself. Explosions rocked the command center. Lyraneth rallied the ground defenses, her voice steady despite the chaos, her blade taking down extremists who'd landed boarding parties on the platform's surface. Marcus fought beside her, coordinating the defense. The battle raged for another hour before Marcus saw his opening. The extremist fleet had committed everything to breaking the platform's defenses, their formation tight as they pressed their numerical advantage. They'd forgotten the lesson that every human military academy drilled into its officers: never commit all your forces to a single point. "Admiral," Marcus said, his voice hoarse from smoke and combat, "those 2 frigates you've been holding in reserve, are their FTL drives operational?" The Valkyrie admiral's eyes widened with understanding. "Yes, but jumping within a gravity well is suicidal under normal circumstances. But those tethers I've been manipulating? They've created gravitational fluctuations that will mask the jump signatures." Marcus highlighted 2 positions on the tactical display. "Jump here and here. Micro-jumps, 3 seconds each. You'll come out behind their capital ships with point-blank firing solutions." "That's insane," the Thros general rumbled. Then he grinned, savage and approving. "I like it." The frigates jumped. For 3 heartbeats, they simply vanished from the battlefield. The extremist fleet, sensing victory within reach, surged forward. Then the frigates reappeared exactly where Marcus had calculated, their weapons already firing at ranges measured in meters, not kilometers. The extremist capital ships never had a chance. At point-blank range, the frigates' main guns tore through shields and armor like paper. 2 dreadnoughts exploded in cascading fireballs that lit up the sky. The third tried to bring its weapons to bear, but the Valkyrie frigate was already inside its firing arc, hammering its engines until they detonated. The extremist fighter wings, suddenly without capital ship support, found themselves caught between the platform's defenses and the frigate's pursuit. What had been a coordinated assault became a rout. "They're breaking off," the admiral reported, disbelief in her voice. "They're retreating." "Let them go," Marcus ordered. "But transmit this message on all frequencies: anyone who wants to continue this war will face not just the Empire's, but humanity's way of making peace. We don't ask nicely twice." Silence fell across the command center. The surviving defenders, Valkyrie and Thros, covered in blood and soot, stared at the human who'd somehow turned an impossible defense into a victory. Lyraneth stepped beside Marcus, her navy blue skin streaked with battle damage, her blonde hair singed but her violet eyes fierce with pride. "You didn't just save us. You showed them what real unity looks like." "We showed them," Marcus corrected, taking her hand. "This wasn't me. It was what we built in a few hours. Imagine what we can build in years." The Thros general approached, his scarred face thoughtful. "Captain Webb, the Thros value strength above all. Today, you proved that humanity possesses strength we didn't understand. Not just in combat, but in vision." He clasped his fist over his heart, a gesture of profound respect. "You have earned the right to be called warrior among our people." The Valkyrie admiral followed, her elegant features showing rare emotion. "And the Valkyrie honor those who turn impossible circumstances into triumph through wisdom and courage. Captain, you embody our highest ideals while belonging to neither empire. Perhaps that is exactly what we needed." Marcus looked out at the assembled defenders, seeing not 2 separate forces but the beginning of something new. The extremists wanted to prove that peace was impossible. Instead, they proved why it's necessary. Because when we work together, when we combine our strengths instead of fighting over our differences, we become stronger than anyone who opposes us. Later, in the quiet that followed the battle, Marcus and Lyraneth stood at the observation deck overlooking the chasm. The platform had stabilized, the bodies had been cleared, and both empires' fleets were moving into peaceful formations around the station. "You were meant to be a symbol," Lyraneth said softly. "A ceremonial husband to seal a treaty." "And you were meant to be a diplomatic sacrifice," Marcus replied. "But that's not what happened, is it?" She smiled, and in that smile he saw the warrior who'd fought beside him, the princess who'd rallied her people, and the woman who was now his wife in truth, not just treaty. No. What happened is we became something neither empire expected. Partners. Equals. The war isn't over, Marcus cautioned. There will be other extremists, other challenges. But it changed today. Lyranetha's hand found his, navy blue fingers intertwining with human ones. You were right. The war didn't end when we married. It changed. Because now both empires know what peace looks like when it's enforced by people who refuse to accept anything less. Marcus pulled her close, feeling her warmth, her strength, her determination matching his own. Then let's make sure that